13th at 9. New England Public Media is sponsored in part by our contributing viewers and by WPI's Business School, merging business and tech using data-driven management skills to work, learn, and lead in a complex global business world. More at business.wpi.edu.
You're watching New England Public Media, WGBY Springfield.
He was bigger than boxing.
I am the greatest.
He was larger than life.
His magnetism just was amazing. Who is this guy?
He was a revolutionary. He was a groundbreaker.
Well, ain't nobody gonna stop me.
Ken Burns captures an intimate story of victory, defeat, and determination.
The price of freedom comes high. I have paid, but I am free.
Muhammad Ali.
Tune in or stream Muhammad Ali this September on NEBM.
Coming up, stories we're connecting you with tonight. We'll visit an area of Cape Cod that served as an inspiration for countless artists.
For someone to give you the opportunity of solitude in the National Seashore, in one of the most beautiful places on earth, I can't imagine how you couldn't be inspired.
With the close of the 2021 Olympics, we now look to the start of the Paralympic Games, and we'll get an inside look from a local gold medalist.
If there's an athlete with, say, cerebral palsy, coaching athletes that also have CP, they're able to understand what their body's able to do.
And everyone knows what a selfie is, but what's a selfie mural? We'll take a trip to North Adams to find out.
People do love coming to a city and posting a picture of themselves there, and these murals give a backdrop for people to do that.
We'll bring you those stories and more as we explore the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. Up next on Connecting Point.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for Connecting Point. I'm Saidalis Bauer. This week marked the end of the so-called dog days of summer, a time when many head to the coast for some relaxation and to escape the heat. And for many in New England, that means going to the Cape. In part 2 of our 3-part series on the history and beauty of the Cape Cod National Seashore, we visit the outer dunes of Provincetown. Within this protected landscape, there are 19 shacks of various shapes and sizes that have served as the inspiration for many great works of American literature. Producer Dave Frazier takes us on a tour of this historic region of the Outer Cape as we continue to celebrate 60 years of the Cape Cod National Seashore.
The dunes on the outer beach of Cape Cod were formed as a result of early settlers cutting down the trees. With nothing to hold the sandy soil in place, the land was shaped and eroded by each passing storm. When the dunes became part of the Cape Cod National Seashore, access was carefully restricted to minimize further damage. To see them, one must either hike in via one of the park's approved trails or be driven in by a guide from Art's Dune Tours, the only tour guide company that has allowed access to the dunes by vehicle.
It's always a treat out here because it's so different every trip, between the lighting, the clouds, the colors, the vegetation, the people's interest and the questions, you know, so between all of that, every single tour, every single day is different.
Rob Costa and his family have been taking people on tours of the dunes since 1946. His dad started the business after returning home from World War II.
He ended up buying a 1936 Ford Woody, and he started his own company because he loved it so much, you know, and he started running people out here in the dunes and giving them kind of a thrill ride.
Tucked into the dunes of Provincetown are a number of small shacks with a rich history. These dune shacks were originally constructed as life-saving huts for Coast Guardsmen in the late 1890s, but most were built in the 1920s and 30s and used by the artist colony in Provincetown. The shacks provided solitude and a chance for creative inspiration.
To go out to experience a dune shack is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's magical. For someone to give you the opportunity of solitude in the National Seashore, in one of the most beautiful places on earth. I can't imagine how you couldn't be inspired.
It's about a 2-mile walk through soft sand from your car to reach the dune shacks. They have no running water and no electricity. There are kerosene lamps for light and wells dug in the sand for hand-pumping drinking and washing water. Photographer Julie Tremblay hikes out to the shacks often.
I started going out to the dunes to shoot just the dunes, and I discovered the shacks, and then I started doing some research, and it became like sort of this quest, like this really fun treasure hunt to try to find them all and figure them out.
One of the most famous early residents of the dune shacks was playwright Eugene O'Neill, but they have also drawn the likes of Tennessee Williams, Jackson Pollock, Norman Mailer, and E.E. Cummings. Today, several nonprofits in Provincetown help the National Park Service with summer residency programs.
If you want a clean composition, it's a great place to go because you've got huge expanses going out. You've got the ocean, you've got these incredible skies, you've got the sand, you've got the light is crazy beautiful. This is about 5 o'clock in the morning, and what was great was that the moon setting and the sun rising were happening within like 10 minutes of each other. So the sun is just coming up and it's just hitting the top, and you can see it hitting the tips of the fence. So the sun is still on the way up, and the moon is, you know, on its way down. So that was kind of a nice bonus.
For me, that was a next level experience on Cape Cod. I didn't walk out to the dune shacks or even out to that landscape till I was 40. When you get to the top and you feel like you're in the Gobi Desert and you've never seen anything like that on Cape Cod, I just had that thought when I was 40 and did that, like, how did it take me this long to get to this spot?
Rob Costa and his crew continue to introduce visitors to this backshore environment of Provincetown by way of his dune tours. This year, his company will celebrate 75 years. Inspiration and creativity seem to go hand in hand on the outer beach. Artists flock here for the solitude, the love of the land, and the creativity it inspires, and families still come and raise their children.
I took my mom on a dune tour many years ago. We drive by Ray Wells' shack, and she tells everybody in the truck I was conceived behind it. I'm like, oh my God, Mom. That was like a mic drop moment. But it was a true story. So, like, I got married out here to my husband, Rob. And that's why, because I was conceived and, you know, get married, and you know, when I die, if I can get some ashes out here, that would be good too.
The 2021 Summer Olympics in Japan came to a close this week, and now the torch has passed to a new group of elite athletes, Paralympians. The Paralympic Games are a major international sport competition for disabled athletes that runs parallel to the Olympics and begins on August 24th. West Springfield native Mike Prout is a 3-time Paralympic swimmer and holds bronze and gold medals from the 2004 Games. Later this month, Prout will head to his 4th Paralympic Games, this time as a coach of the US Paralympic Swimming team. He joined me to discuss his swimming career, the importance of the Paralympics, and what he's looking forward to as a coach at this year's Games.
So the Paralympics has been going on since 1948. Along with the Olympics, they're parallel. So the Olympics are able-bodied athletes, and the Paralympics are physically disabled, visually impaired, or intellectually impaired athletes that are also competing at the highest level. You know, so same rules apply as with the Olympics. You have to compete within the rules of the sport, and there's gold, silver, and bronze medals. It's in the same venues as the Olympics. There's usually about a 2 to 3 week changeover time allowed between the two so that they can switch out all the Olympic signage with all the Paralympic signage and get all the volunteers and everybody in the host cities to be prepared. But otherwise, the Olympics, Paralympics are kind of the same, two sides of the same coin.
You're very familiar with the Paralympics yourself, having competed in Athens 2004, Beijing 2008, and London 2012, holding both gold and bronze medals. How did your background in swimming begin?
So I started swimming on a team when I was about 6 years old. After I'd had a hip surgery when I was 5, the doctor had recommended swimming as a great low-impact sport. So I started swimming on a team when I was 6. Swam all my life on able-bodied swim teams. I didn't know about the Paralympics until I was 16, and I started competing in meets at that point. I also continued swimming able-body all throughout that period, including swimming at UMass Amherst. Before eventually, after graduating college, I did move out to the Olympic Training Center to train for the London Games, but grew up kind of with the same experience as any able-bodied swimmer did, on their club team, practicing just as I would otherwise. Being in a higher classification allowed me to do that a little bit easier than athletes that are in a lower classification that are more severely disabled. But I was able to do it, and now we try and give opportunities for other athletes to kind of get those same experiences.
You were born with your disability and have endured multiple surgeries before winning your Olympic medals. You also own several American swimming records. How has this sport impacted your life?
Once I started doing it, I loved it, and I loved the training when I was growing up. And now that I'm on the retired side, I have been coaching. So I coach a club team with able-bodied swimmers. I also run an adaptive swim program that has a swim team and swim lessons. Through swimming, I was able to develop a lot of skills like self-discipline, time management, things like that. And being around the sport and the people that are in the sport has always been enjoyable for me. And I think that's why after taking a little break from it, after I stopped competing, I was drawn back into the swimming world.
Speaking of coaching, you're heading to Tokyo to be one of the coaches for the US Paralympic Swim team. Talk to me about that transition into coaching and what you enjoy most about it.
Like I said, I'd taken a little bit of a break from the swimming world after I stopped competing. And then I had been doing a little bit of coaching again back in 2016 around the Rio Paralympic trials meet, and realized that it was something that I missed and wanted to get back into. So I've started coaching on the national team side, doing national and international competitions with them and going to camps and clinics, as well as coaching more full-time. And I think for them, it makes it easier to connect with me, knowing that I am also a Paralympian and I've gone through the same things that they've either also gone through or are going through now.
As a coach for swimmers with disabilities, having a disability yourself and you having swam with able-bodied swimmers, what difference does that make for these athletes rather than having an able-bodied coach?
One of the big advantages is just that when we've done a couple of our clinics that we've done out at UMass Amherst, I've brought in coaches specifically based on some of the athletes' disabilities. And what we noticed was that if there's an athlete with, say, cerebral palsy, coaching athletes that also have CP, they're able to understand what their body's able to do and not able to do, and kind of strengths and weaknesses a lot easier. So having that connection and just being able to think about how my body moves versus how somebody in a wheelchair's body is able to move, and having just a little bit extra information just internally from always having a disability and knowing I've had to adapt makes it a little bit easier to think about how that athlete would have to adapt.
This year, NBC Universal will be airing the first primetime broadcast in history of the 2020 Tokyo Paralympic Games and will air a record 1,200 hours of coverage. What does it mean for these athletes who do not get the same coverage as other Olympians to now receive this increase and represent their countries on an international stage?
It means a lot. It's certainly it's something we've been fighting for and asking for a long time. In a lot of other countries, the Paralympics are as big or sometimes bigger, depending on the qualities of their teams. And we've been lagging behind a little bit in the U.S. So now I think with the help of streaming and the help of just more recognition and sponsors helping athletes get their names out there, that we're starting to catch back up to the rest of the world in terms of the coverage that we'll be allowed to have this time around. And I think that it's amazing that more people will have access to see the Paralympics this go around, and it'll only help to continue building the sport within the country.
Every Friday night, Connecting Point explores the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. But it doesn't stop there. You can find us online anytime for exclusive features and content. As the 2021 Summer Olympics in Tokyo draw to a close this week, we remember that there are some memorable moments in Olympic history with ties to New England. The most famous of which for many is undoubtedly the U.S. hockey team's Miracle on Ice win against the Soviet Union during the 1980 Olympics. The team was led by Massachusetts native Mike Eruzione, who looked back on the historic win in this online exclusive.
17 of us dressed that night. The other guys were 9 guys were in the stands.
Eruzione scored the winning goal.
I just felt, 10 minutes left, I had an opportunity to score, and it worked out, and we had the lead, and that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Don't miss this digital exclusive available online right now at nepm.org/connectingpoint. As the home of one of the largest contemporary art museums in the country, it should come as no surprise that the city of North Adams is no stranger to the arts, and visitors to town find reminders of that everywhere they go. This summer, the Cultural District in North Adams has added 2 new murals to their growing collection of public art. With a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, 2 local artists were selected to create what are known as selfie murals with the hashtag North Adams, and Connecting Point's Brian Sullivan met up with them to bring us this story.
Anyone traveling along Ashland Street in North Adams would be hard-pressed not to see the immense 8-story mural on the north side of the Ashland Park Apartments. This multicolored work of art is a tribute to one-time North Adams resident Lu Gim Gong, the horticulturist and Chinese immigrant who later went on to develop the first frost-resistant orange. We were there as world-renowned artist Gaia was heading up in the boom lift to apply the first coats of paint. Only a couple of weeks later, there it was in all its glory, almost as if there was never a time that it wasn't on the side of the building.
Hiding in plain sight is one of those expressions I probably use too often, but it's the best way I can describe murals. They seem to just appear out of nowhere and then almost instantly become part of the scenery, as if they had been there all along.
Of course, they don't always have to cover 8 stories of wall space, as evidenced by this 9-by-9-foot monarch butterfly mural being painted by local artist Valerie Carrigan on Holden Street in North Adams. She and fellow local artist Amy Coon were each commissioned by the North Adams Cultural District to create what are being called selfie murals with the hashtag North Adams on them. Coon was part of a similar project in 2020. Her work can be seen among the several other 4-by-4-foot murals on Ashland Street.
Last year, I moved to North Adams and immediately received an opportunity to do the Ashland Street Initiative mural, which was a 4-by-4-foot panel that was supposed to help bring people down Ashland Street and also help create like a sense of hope during this time of the pandemic. So I got to do that project last summer, and now fast forward 1 year, there's a new mural that I'm doing that's an 18-foot long mural, so I'm really excited about that.
Amy Coon will be using her 9-by-9 feet of space to put a modern spin on a classic postcard design, giving visitors who take selfies in front of it a real wish-you-were-here vibe.
People do love coming to a city and posting a picture of themselves there, and these murals give a backdrop for people to do that. And one of the requirements of this mural was that there was a hashtag North Adams at the bottom.
While Amy was able to work in the cool confines of her studio in the old Greylock Works building, Valerie Carrigan set up shop right out in the open for the whole world to see. And aside from the intense heat some days, the experience had more pluses than minuses.
As a woman who passed by the other day said to me, I walk by your mural every day. It brings me so much joy. And it's like we've all just emerged after this past year from a cocoon. And I thought that's exactly what I want people to feel when they see this mural. It's vibrant, it's joyful, it's hopeful.
Sentiments that the cultural district would like to see pervade among visitors and residents of the state's smallest city. It's a city that, for the past quarter century, has moved away from its industrial roots and embraced its arts and culture community. These murals now are just more pieces being added to the ever-developing jigsaw puzzle.
The town of North Adams really supports artists both local and also regionally, and it really, North Adams is ready to invest in the arts and to bring people to town to appreciate it.
As we just saw, North Adams is a city that is deeply invested in the arts and hosts a thriving artistic community. Getting that artistic community connected to the business community in the area is a project that's recently been undertaken by the North Adams Artist Impact Coalition, in part thanks to a $100,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. The coalition is working on creating 2 directories to bolster artists' access to resources and each other, as well as to local businesses. And I spoke with Michelle Daly of Daly Arts Consulting, who is spearheading the project, to find out more.
It is to kind of put a list of all of the artists in the community in one place, so that's visible to everyone. And then sort of this, I think the sub goal of that is really for artists to understand who else is in the creative community, because it tends to be very siloed in some ways. Like if you've come in a certain generation or through a certain program, you kind of have that network, but maybe you're not so aware of what the other creative networks are in the community. So it's really a chance just to kind of see who's here and maybe find some collaborators, maybe find a critique group, maybe, pair together, group together on a larger project, that sort of a thing.
The artist directory is being accompanied by a business directory as well. While art can be a huge economic engine, historically artists tend to struggle with the business side of things. Why do you think that is, and how important is it to educate artists about business?
Yeah, so I think there's kind of 2 pieces to that question. The first is a larger cultural perception of, that myth of a starving artist and, some pressure to not care about money or to not have it be about money or earning a living in some way. And I think the reality of that is really changing. And I think the reality of that has been changing for quite a long time. I think it's just hard to really talk about it sometimes. Every artist who considers themselves an artist, even if they have other employment, is a business owner. They're a sole proprietorship or a DBA, or, maybe they don't have that legal structure in place, but they are a business. So helping them understand what that means, and also how to think about your creative practice in a way that supports your expenses. And then hopefully your life, right? Not just your immediate, like what it costs me to make a painting, but all of the thought that goes into that, all the time that goes into that, all of the having a life around that goes into making the space and time to do that, and how to support all of that. But the second piece of the business directory specifically is helping artists understand who the local businesses are that can help support them. Also, where they might be customers of other small businesses, where maybe they're shopping online now or going to a larger city. Maybe there's a hidden gem for them locally where they could source that, and then they can build that local relationship, which is important, I think, to almost every artist, right? It's those relationship skills, and myself and almost every artist I know, like that weighs into where we shop. So maybe something's a little more expensive, but we want to be able to have that conversation. We want someone who knows what we do and is on our side in a way that, shopping online somewhere maybe isn't.
So how have you been working to build both of these directories, and how do you see it benefiting the community?
We have been working with the Creative Ground platform, which was created and is administered by the New England Foundation for the Arts, kind of as our backbone specifically for the artist directory. And then the business piece is really being compiled sort of through my knowledge as a longtime North Adams resident, through those knowledges of those suggestions that are coming into me, and just through outreach to the local community. But really it's just a chance to point everyone to kind of one resource, and to make sure that then we're also kind of equalizing that playing field in a way, so it's not based on just a recommendation, which tends to be the same folks over and over again, because either they have the highest, most successful careers or best known, or they're just the kind of the go-to. So how do we sort of democratize those relationships as well?
These directories are being exclusively built for North Adams area artists. Why the focus on North Adams specifically, and what makes the city such an attractive place to work and live?
North Adams, has been an increasingly growing creative community for 30 years or so. Mass MoCA has been kind of the anchor of that. I think there's been attempts in the past to do this with different organizations, different venues. And I think what's special about this project is the Artist Impact Coalition really is this ad hoc committee with representation from all of those groups. So it's instead of, Mass MoCA leading the charge or MCLA leading the charge or Common Folk leading the charge, they're all working together. So we're it's that collective impact model, right? Where we can gather all of that information and layer atop itself.
Now, being an artist, a business owner, and a resident of North Adams yourself, you have built your own relationship with the community. How are you able to draw on that experience with this project?
I have probably been most visible as an arts administrator in this community versus an artist, although I've shown my work a few times. That has given me access to all of these spaces and gives me familiarity with probably at least a couple folks in those spaces. So I think it's really helpful because they know who I am, they know how I work, they know what my intentions are. So there's kind of a foundation of trust already there. And I really my personal kind of cheerleader spirit for North Adams is that there are so many incredible artists here, and I want to make sure that they get seen and they get as many opportunities as possible. And I think if you kind of look at the arc of my work, both sort of personally and professionally, that's the driving force.
That does it for Connecting Point for August 13th, 2021. Remember, you can always find the stories that you saw tonight, as well as exclusive features, digital-only content, and more online anytime at nepm.org/connectingpoint. And please be sure to join us again next Friday night at 6 right here on New England Public Media for more stories of the creativity, culture, and community that make us Western New England. I'm Saidalis Bauer. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.
Support for Connecting Point is provided by our contributing viewers.
Before they were born, they lost their fathers in the tragedy of 9/11. PBS traces 7 young lives as they carve their own paths in an ever-changing America.
I feel motivated